My name is Vincent Rossi, and I'm the coordinator for the speaker series. I want to welcome you to our museum. Thank you for coming. Let me just mention our next program will be October the 7th, and that will be a history of the Poway Midland Railroad. And the talk will be given by Mr. Chuck Cross, who I believe is the VP of the railroad, and he will talk about how it came to be and how it's continued to be one of the most popular attractions in this community. Hi, welcome. Thank you. I think there's some seats in the back there. Great, thanks. And so today, our speaker is Mr. Garry Butterfield. And this is a program I know I'm looking forward to, because as I mentioned in our advertising for the program, a lot of us take access to water for granted in our county, but this is a county which was once a very rural and arid, much more arid area than it is today. And I remember in some of my research into the history of the county, I like to talk about how at the time, at the time that the Spanish explorers came and founded Old Town in 1769, the projected estimated population of the whole county, San Diego, which was at that point the Native American population, was around 20,000 people. This is what is all of today, and actually that was what is today San Diego County and Imperial County in addition. And part of that, I think, is a real reflection about the ability of the land to support a large population, which was much smaller than it is. It was considerably lower. And access to water is a critical part of that. And our speaker today is eminently qualified to tell us about the history of water projects. He was formerly with, he spent his career working for water districts in La Mesa and Sweetwater, among other places. He later served as the director of the San Diego County Water Authority and chair of the San Diego Regional Water Resources Control Board. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Garry Butterfield.
Thank you very much, Vincent. I need to tell you that when Vincent first called me and asked me if I'd do this, which was several months ago, I realized that what we were going to be talking about was specific to San Diego and more specific to Rancho Bernardo. Now, I spent 17 years of my career in Ramona at the water district there as a manager. I had 3 years in La Mesa at the Phoenix Water District. I had 15 years in Chula Vista at the Sweetwater Authority. But my expertise was not on the city of San Diego and this area in particular. So I had to do research. And thank goodness we made this arrangement long enough ago. I had time to do the research. But in doing the research, particularly looking at the first 200 years of San Diego's water district, I realized that what we did here wasn't really overly impressive when you compare it to some things that have happened before. It made me think about a book I read years ago. I think most of you remember the bicentennial in 1976. Well, the New England chapter of the American Society of Civil Engineers decided they would do a project in recognition of the bicentennial. One of their members had an interest in old Latin manuscripts. And in traveling in Spain, he'd gone to a monastery and found a Latin manuscript, and being able to read Latin, he recognized that it was, the subject was an engineering subject. And being an engineer, he bought the manuscript from the monastery and he brought it back, and the Society of Civil Engineers decided to publish the book, translate it and publish it for the bicentennial. And the book was called The Water Supply of the City of Rome, 97 AD. And it was written by the water commissioner of the city of Rome in 1997 AD, who had been a general in the Roman army, and he had been successful as a general, and the Roman emperor had rewarded him by making him the commissioner of water for the city of Rome. But he was a land surveyor before he became a general. And so he wrote this book, just kind of documenting what he'd been doing. And it included all kinds of stuff that's gotten a lot of interest, like how many feet long each one of the aqueducts was and how many feet high it was. And he described the whole water system of the city of Rome. Well, you've all heard about the Roman aqueducts. And they all flowed down to the 7 fountains in the city of Rome. Those fountains served a purpose. That was how the aqueduct ended. Didn't have any reservoirs to put the water in. It went into the fountains. And then people came and filled their jars and containers with water at the fountains and took it home to take care of their water needs. The rich people had water piped to their estates. This is back 2,000 years ago. And so, they had it pretty easy. They didn't have to go to the fountain and pick up the water. But it began to get sick with a condition that came to be known as rich man's disease. What it was lead poisoning. Because all the pipes were made out of lead. And so the Romans had a pretty advanced water system back then. They didn't know some of the things we know now, or they wouldn't have used lead. But, they did it in Detroit, so I could guess.
That's true.
And that gave me some perspective as I began to look at the history of how water came to San Diego. And as Vincent mentioned already, it started in 1769 when Father Benito Serra arrived with the Spanish missionaries and soldiers, and they developed a reliable water supply, which still exists in Mission Trails Park. The old Mission Dam, the 6-mile aqueduct that carried the water from Mission Dam down to San Diego de Alcoa, the Mission, and that was their water supply for a long time. So it was an open aqueduct that ran from the pond that now exists behind the dam. It's hard to believe that dam still functions as a dam, and it's interesting to go see it. So that was the very first irrigation and domestic water system ever built by Europeans this far west of the United States. The city of San Diego's water history really began in 1850. And I'm going to try and keep this non-technical because only I'm interested in the technical part of it. But I do have to give some dates so you can see the progression. In 1850, the city was incorporated. Actually incorporated in 1850 with a population of 650 people. And the San Diego River was the primary source of water at that time. Of course, that was the source that in 1769 was primary source too. By 1873, the population had grown to 2,000. A reliable water supply was needed, so the San Diego Water Company was formed. This was not a city water company, this was a private water company. And they dug a well at 11th and B Streets. That's not very far away from the ocean. No. The water quality was pretty bad. It was pretty salty water. And the deal was, it produced about 50,000 gallons a day, so it was a pretty good well. But you had to come to the well with a bucket, and it was 25 cents a bucket of water. And then you took it home. And that's the only water supply there was for the city of San Diego with a population of 2,000 at that time. Now, in an effort to get a better quality of water, in 1875, the San Diego Water Company, the same water company that did the well at 11th and B, dug some wells in the San Diego River bed and installed a rudimentary pumping plant that have electricity for the pumping plant. And that served an extended distribution system so that it was a little more convenient. You didn't have to go to one spot to get your water. There were several spots you could get your water. In 1889, the Cuyamaca Dam and Reservoir was built. It's still there, an earth-filled and rock dam. My first job was with Helix Water District in La Mesa in 1957, and they operate Cuyamaca Dam and still operate Cuyamaca Dam. Still part of the water supply of the city of La Mesa, El Cajon, Lemon Grove, and Spring Valley. And then, how to get the water to San Diego? The San Diego Flume Company, another private company, was formed. And they built a flume 36.5 miles long from Boulder Creek, which is just upstream of El Capitan Reservoir, if you know where that is above Lakeside. And it flowed into La Mesa up on Rosemont Summit. And there was a reservoir up there that was the end of the flume. The flume was made out of wood. It wasn't made out of stone and masonry like the Romans did. So when it crossed the valley, it had to cross the valley on stilts, and come across level because it was an open flume about 4 feet wide and then 2 feet sides. I had the pleasure of seeing a photograph of it when it was dedicated. Waldo Waterman, who was the governor of California then, came to San Diego for the dedication of this engineering marvel, the San Diego Flume. And the picture was of Waldo Waterman and several other local officials floating down the flume in a little wooden boat with umbrellas over their heads. That's how they dedicated the flume. Then between 1887 and 1897, private companies erected 6 major dams on county rivers. And all 6 of those dams are still in operation. They've been improved, maintained, but they're still in operation and still serve the area today. By 1923, every major drainage system in the county included at least one dam and reservoir. No exceptions. Every single major water system, and there are a lot of rivers in the county, as you probably are aware. Well, in 1901, the voters of San Diego authorized the city to enter into the municipal water supply business. There's no more contracting with some little company that operates a flume or digs a well. We're going to do it ourselves. So they went into the water supply business by purchasing the water system of the San Diego Water Company. They paid $500,000 for that in 1901 dollars. And a portion of the system of the Southern California Water Company that was within the city limits, and they only paid $100,000 for that. Then in 1912, the city issued bonds to purchase Barrett Lake Dam. Actually, the site of Barrett Lake Dam, the dam hadn't been built yet. That's down in the South County. And they also bought the Otay Lakes and Choyas Reservoir systems for $2.5 million from the Southern California Water Company. They purchased the privately owned Marina Dam and Reservoir in 1914, and the same year that they began to distribute treated water for the first time, because they built the Otay water treatment plant. So all the water was just the way God gave it to us, except they tried to disinfect it to make sure that the germs didn't get through to the public. But up till that time, they had no treated water available for consumption in the city of San Diego. You all know that 2 years later, Hatfield's flood occurred in 1916 and kind of messed things up. Otay Dam fell down and had to be rebuilt as a result. Sweetwater Dam that I was responsible for operating the water system that owned Sweetwater Dam, which was built in 1888. It didn't fall down, but the water got so high, it actually washed out one end of the dam, washed out the native material there, and just went around the dam. And the dam was left standing, connected on one side with the ground and then the other side, and that had to be repaired. But they survived that, and shortly after that time, the story of Lake Hodges began. Development of the dam and reservoir is entwined with a very well-known figure, at least a figure that we've all heard about, Colonel Ed Fletcher. His name was attached to Fletcher Hills and Fletcher Parkway. Ed Fletcher came to San Diego from Massachusetts in 1888. And he entered the real estate business as a land agent in 1901. In association with William Gross, for which Grossmont is named, he developed Grossmont and Mount Helix and Del Mar. Then in 1907, he was appointed to be a lieutenant colonel in the California National Guard. And that's how he got the appellation Colonel Ed Fletcher. He was Colonel Ed Fletcher for the rest of his life, from that 1907 appointment to the National Guard. He became interested in developing projects to deliver water, which would then enable the development of real estate. So it wasn't a purely philanthropic thing that he was doing. Fletcher and James Murray purchased the San Diego Flume Company, the same one that I referred to before, in 1910, and they renamed it the Cuyamaca Water Company. During that 15-year period that Fletcher and Murray operated the Cuyamaca Water Company, they created Lake Murray and Lake Hodges. Now, both dams were completed in 1918, and they're both of the same design. They're known as an Eastman multiple arch dam. This is an engineering design that's no longer used. It isn't a dangerous design, but it doesn't have the safety factors that more traditional dams have. If you've looked at Lake Hodges Dam on Del Diaz Highway, it looks very different than any other dam you've ever seen. It's 27 barrels going like that across the canyon. If you look at Lake Murray Dam, it looks exactly the same. That one's over near Mesa. The Santa Fe Land and Improvement Company was the name of the company that was formed to actually build Lake Hodges, to build the Hodges Dam. And that was after Fletcher had convinced the Santa Fe Railroad executives that building a dam would provide water source for coastal communities, and if there was more water for coastal communities, people would move there, and people move there, they'd ride the train between San Diego and Oceanside. And that's what Santa Fe Railroad wanted. It probably doesn't hurt that Fletcher offered to name the dam at Del Dios after the vice president of the Santa Fe Railroad, whose name was W.E. Hodges. So that's how we got the name. San Diego Mutual Water Company operated the dam and the lake until 1925, and in 1925, the city of San Diego bought it. It's not really clear what the city fathers had in mind at the time that they bought the dam, because the lake doesn't serve the city of San Diego. And as I'll discuss a little later on, up until just about 4 years ago, it has never served the city of San Diego, any part of the city of San Diego. In 1929, the California State Supreme Court ruled that the city of San Diego has rights to all of the water of the San Diego River as a successor to the Pueblo, the original Spanish Pueblo. That meant that they no longer had to share the water from the river, which they had been doing with Phoenix Water District. In 1931, with the San Diego River water rights all assured, the city purchased the El Capitan dam site from what was then called Mesa Lemon Grove and Spring Valley Irrigation District, now Lake Hodges Water District. And 4 years later, El Capitan Dam was completed, and the reservoir was connected to the city's water supply system. San Vicente Dam, which is on the San Vicente Creek, it's just a tributary to the San Diego River. San Vicente Dam and pipeline was completed in 1943 by the city of San Diego. And its major purpose in the system is to provide storage, not to impound a stream, but to provide a place to put water in the wintertime when you don't need it, so you can take it out in the summertime when you do need it. Originally, it had a capacity of about 90,000 acre-feet. Acre foot is a figure that the water industry uses because it's, if you used gallons, it would just get way too big. So it's the amount of water that 1 acre covered 1 foot deep would contain. That's 325,851 gallons. So you can see why we say acre foot. So the 90,000 acre feet of capacity of San Vicente Dam really was adequate until fairly recently. The dam has recently been raised. The tallest dam raise that I think that's ever occurred in the United States. They raised it 177 feet. And now that increased the capacity of San Vicente by about 157,000 acre feet, more than double the capacity of the reservoir. And that is additional emergency storage. If an earthquake occurred, since our aqueduct system crosses the earthquake faults, if an earthquake occurred, that would provide us water supply while the aqueduct is being repaired. You can't depend on pipes always serving you, as India, if you ever have a main breaker turned from your house. No, it takes a while to get it fixed. By the time that all of the area's local water supplies were fully developed and were judged to provide a dependable water source, which was before World War II, all the local water supplies that we have were adequate for a population of 100,000 people. There are 3.2 million people here now. So that meant that some tough decisions had to be made. The nation was fully engaged in World War II, and the Navy had a big investment in San Diego. Lots of training facilities here and other facilities, and they needed to be sure that those facilities would be available for the duration of the war. So the Bureau of Reclamation of the United States and the Navy together arranged to build a pipeline from the imported water supply of the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, which was up in Orange and Los Angeles counties, down to San Diego to be sure that we didn't run out of water before the war was over. In the meantime, the famous Colonel Fletcher had been elected to the California State Senate. And he served from 1934 until 1947. And in 1944, just 3 years before he went off, Senator Fletcher helped to author the laws creating the San Diego County Water Authority. Just in time, because the Water Authority then took over the completion of the pipeline the Navy had started. Until there was a county-wide organization with the power to obligate the whole county, there was no way to finance this idea. So Ed Fletcher was instrumental in forming a county water authority. And the county water authority then was formed in 1944 to administer the region's legal rights to Colorado River water, which is the water that the Metropolitan Water District had imported into Southern California back in the 30s. So we became a member of Metropolitan Water District. It had joined it first. And after arranging to repay the Navy on the burial reclamation for the cost of the initial construction effort on the pipeline, the first Colorado River water was delivered into Santa City Reservoir in November of 1947. Just in time, really, because the county's growth was making it really difficult to maintain a dependable water supply. If you choose to live, as we all do, in a semi-arid desert area with a lovely climate, but the resulting very limited amount of water, droughts and that kind of thing are a real big problem. I was raised in Minneapolis. There, a drought was defined as 2 weeks without rain. We've had 7 years with droughts that were just devastating. The aqueduct consists of 2 pipelines. One pipeline was completed and delivered the water into Santa City in 1947, and the second pipeline was completed parallel to the first in 1952. It might be of interest to know that the first and second pipelines, the first aqueduct it's called, because people, the later one called it the second aqueduct. First aqueduct is about 3 blocks from here. It comes right through Marbella in Oaks North. In the open space easement that comes through Marbella is the right-of-way for the aqueduct. There are 2 8-foot diameter pipelines coming through that under the ground. And on their way, they come across Highland Valley Road, came across the San Pedro River just east of the bridge, of Highway Interstate 15 bridge, and then crosses Highland Valley Road, then comes in behind this facility, goes through all the way down this Spur Road, or parallel to Spur Road, not in the road, and ends up in Slaughterhouse Canyon up on the lakeside. And there it dumps into Santa City Reservoir. And that's the location in which City of San Diego has connections and Phoenix Water District has connections and so forth. They take their water from that location. 3 more pipelines were built to deliver imported water from both the Colorado River and Northern California sources, and they've been completed since that first aqueduct was completed. In 1950, the city acquired the operation of Lake Murray Dam and Reservoir, and they started the construction of Eldorado Water Treatment Plant at Lake Murray. They'd only had the one water treatment plant all those years. Down in Otay, that doesn't make it possible to bring treated water this far. So they built water treatment plant in Eldorado, and that allowed the development of things like San Carlos and all of the development that's occurred in Mission Valley, and all of that is this water from the Eldorado Water Treatment Plant. In 1954, the city completed the Sutherland Dam on the San Diego River. Now, they originally started to build that dam in 1928. And there was a disagreement among landowners and so forth, so it was halted at that point and finally finished in 1954. I had a little experience with Sutherland. It's kind of an unusual circumstance. The city built Sutherland, which is on the San Diego River, same river that Lake Hodges is on, only upstream. And that's a long ways from many city facilities. So the city would transfer water from Sutherland to a pipeline that went through Ramona, and the pipeline stopped when it got to the south part of Ramona, and then it just went into an open stream channel and flowed down to San Jacinto Reservoir. So essentially they were taking water from the San Diego River and transferring it into the San Diego River. That's not done anyplace else. In the 1970s, I was the manager of Ramona Water District, and we got to thinking we were pumping water 1,100 feet vertically to get water into Ramona from Hawaii. And we saw that Sutherland Reservoir was full. The city was getting ready to make their transfer to, which they did always in the spring. And I went to the city of San Diego Public Utilities Department and said, you know, would it be possible for Ramona to take water from your pipeline instead of your dumping it into San Jacinto? We'll pay for the water to come from the aqueduct and dump into San Jacinto. The same amount of water that we're going to take out of your pipeline. And that will save us the 1,100-foot lift with a very expensive electric bill. And the city said, yeah, I guess we could probably do that. We're not going to lose anything as a result of it. So we did that. We had to build a water treatment plant to treat that water and let it flow into Ramona by gravity. Which was, you know, unheard of for Ramona to have a gravity water supply. So I just mentioned that because, one, because it's the unusual moving of water from one river to another, but also there's a history of that kind of cooperation between water agencies in San Diego County. There's so much that we can't do by ourselves that we had to do by cooperating. No, the County Water Authority was the vehicle by which we achieved a lot of that kind of cooperation. Well, by 1960, our wonderful Colorado River import system that had been built by the Metropolitan Water District back in the 30s was delivering about as much water as it could. And we began to look around for another source. And the other source was Northern California water. Northern California has lots of water and not lots of people. Southern California has lots of people, but not much water. So in 1960, the voters of the state of California approved the largest bond issue they'd ever approved and agreed that they would pay to build a facility that would include dams and reservoirs, pump stations, channels from Northern California to Southern California. That the governor at that time was the present governor's father, Edwin G. Pat Brown. And he had only been elected, I think, in 1958. And in 1960, when it was approved, he came down to San Diego. And he met with about 40 of us who were in the water business down at the U.S. Grand Hotel for breakfast. And he told us, we really needed to do this for the state of California. And he said, I realized that I would never be more popular than I was the day I was elected. So I figured I'd better get it on the ballot really quick. And it worked. And as a result, now the same facilities that deliver water to San Diego from the Metropolitan Water District system now can deliver from either or both of the sources, the Colorado River and the Northern California source. Northern California, or State Water Project as we refer to it, built some large open channel aqueducts that brought water down to the foot of the Tehachapi Mountains near Bakersfield. And then there's a big pump station there, a very large pump station. You can see it from 99 and from 5 at the base of the mountain, and it pumps it up over the mountain, and then it drops down by gravity into a couple of reservoirs. Cascade Lake is one of them. Pyramid Lake is another that are near the freeway as you're coming down. And then from there it's distributed all over the Metropolitan Water District system. Wonderful water quality, but it was a tough project to build. It included Oroville Dam, which you all heard about this last year when Oroville Dam's spillway facilities began to break up during the floods. I've been to Oroville Dam. It's an amazing place to go. We visited it, a group of people from Southern California in the water business went up there on a Greyhound bus. And we figured, well, okay, we're going to drive up on top of the dam and look at the lake, and they're going to tell us about the dam. Well, we drove into the dam in a Greyhound bus. Opened the gates, we drove inside. We're in a great big power plant. Big enough that we could do a U-turn with a Greyhound bus without having to back up. It's a huge facility, but it delivers water for Southern California. It really saved our bacon in a very large way. An improvement that had a lot of significance for those in this room was the completion of Miramar Dam and Reservoir at Scripps Miramar Ranch, and that was in 1960. 2 years later, in 1962, Miramar Water Treatment Plant was completed and placed in service, which without it would not have been possible for Rancho Bernardo to exist. They had no facilities to deliver water this far north. The city couldn't deliver drinking water this far north unless they had constructed that facility. And when that occurred, it made it possible for the city to annex Rancho Bernardo to the city of San Diego. And then, with a straight face, provide service. The first deliveries of water from Northern California into San Diego occurred in 1978. In time to rescue San Diego's residents from water shortages resulting from population growth. And they created demands for more water from the Colorado River Aqueduct that system couldn't deliver, so it was timely. During the last 40 years, a number of other water supply improvements have been accomplished. In December 2015, County Water Authority's seawater conversion plant, the Bud Lewis plant in Carlsbad, began to operate, and it is the largest seawater conversion plant in the United States. Produces 50 million gallons of water a day, which sounds a lot, but it added 7% to the county's supply of water. But it was tiny. It's very expensive water, but when you don't have another source, it makes sense. Water expense is one of the things that's changing the character of our county. Avocado groves were very common on land not used for real estate development. But you can't continue to grow avocados with water as expensive as it has become to support the population in Southern California. So we're seeing a lot of grapevines, a lot of vineyards being developed. They don't require near as much water as avocados. And people's habits seem to indicate that they're going to keep drinking wine, so it's... When I left Ramona in 1977, there was not a single vineyard in Ramona. There are 22 operating there now, and 12 tasting rooms. It's become a viticultural area on its own, just like Temecula did 30 years ago. City of San Diego Public Utilities Department operates the city water system. And to give you some kind of an idea of how big that is, there's more than 3,300 miles of distribution pipeline in the city of San Diego. There are 9 reservoirs, 3 water treatment plants, serve 1.3 million customers through more than 276,000 metered connections. And they deliver an average of 200 million gallons a day to their customers. And that's just the city of San Diego, not all of the rest of San Diego County. Vincent thought that there might be some interest in some additional information on our neighbor, Lake Hodges. It sits right there just to the north of us, and the fact that it had never served the city of San Diego always kind of bothered me. It's been owned, operated, and maintained by the city from 1925, when the city purchased it, until 2012. And during that period of time, it never delivered water to city residents. It serves San Diego Irrigation District, Encinitas and that area, and the Santa Fe Irrigation District, Rancho Santa Fe. They have a water treatment plant, they take the water out of, they pay the city of San Diego for the water. So the city gets compensated for it, but that's not normally why we build reservoirs in San Diego County. When full, Hodges covers 1,234 surface acres. It's about the maximum depth is 115 feet. That's down there at the dam. And it has a capacity of 30,250 acre feet. Now, for comparison, the place where we get our water from Miramar Dam, it covers 162 acres compared to 1,234. And it stores 6,682 acre feet. In 2012, the County Water Authority completed projects that connected Hodges Reservoir to the County Water Authority's newly constructed Liebenheim Reservoir, which is directly north of Lake Hodges Dam, off of Mount Israel Road, which is accessed from LGS Highway. That connection allows the city to draft up to 20,000 acre feet out of Lake Hodges for emergency use, not for regular use. They can pump that water up to a Liebenheim Reservoir, treat it at the treatment plant that the County Water Authority has there, and then flow by gravity back into the city system. It has not been used for that purpose yet, but that's another safety feature that's been built into the city system. And so that is there as one more emergency facility that can be called on. What changes can we expect in the future? Well, the only one that the city of San Diego is talking about right now is their pure water plant. Some of you may have gotten this in the mail from the city of San Diego Water Department. This is required by law every year that they provide you with the information on how they're doing on meeting the standards, drinking water standards. And in it is an explanation of their pure water plan. And this is a project that's being developed to treat wastewater to a high degree, allowing it to be returned into a reservoir after it's been treated, then blended with fresh water, then sent to a water treatment plant to meet drinking water standards, and then being delivered to the city's water customers. And it's planned to be in operation by 2035. And that always has a negative effect on people when they think about what used to be called toilet to tap. Nobody wants that. but it's been happening for hundreds of years. You look at the Mississippi River, people in Minnesota take their water north of town, through the water treatment plant, discharge their treated sewage into the Mississippi River south of town. The next town down picks that up, that's their new fresh water supply. They put it through their water treatment plant, dump the treated water into the river, goes on down. That's not by design, that's by accident that it's happening, but this one says, if we're gonna do this, let's do it by design, let's build it really safe, so that we know that we have taken care of the problem. Let's make that water we took out of the sewer safe before we ever blend it back with the other water and then treat it again. It can be done. Some of you have been to San Diego Country Estates up in Ramona. That was built while I was there. And one of the real challenges we had was that we had to build a sewage treatment plant for San Diego Country Estates. And we have planned to take the treated effluent from the plant and use it to grow a crop on land that was owned there. But it's upstream of San Vicente Reservoir. So the natural drainage would take the water down into the city of San Diego's water supply. So we built a sewage treatment plant that produced drinking quality water. We didn't drink it. But that's what was necessary to protect the city of San Diego's water supply downstream. When we dedicated it, the county health director attended our dedication and agreed to take a glass of water directly out of the plant and drink it in front of everybody at the dedication, to demonstrate that he had full confidence that there were enough steps to assure that there was not going to be a public health problem as a result. The same thing can be done, and the city of San Diego is planning to do it. They have an incentive to do it because they have to build a lot of additions to their sewage treatment plant at Point Loma if they don't do it. But if they do, then they're excused from that requirement because they'll take a large load of effluent off that plant. So that's what's in the future. Most of us looking around the room probably aren't going to worry about what happens in 2035, but a lot of our neighbors will. Are there any questions about how San Diego got its water?
Yes, President. You mentioned when you were talking about Lake Hodges and the city of San Diego not getting its water from there. But one of the things that's part of our history is we understand it. The Rancho Bernardo had to do one of the incentives for the city annexing what was then Rancho San Bernardo, which was unincorporated county land.
Right.
Like there was an interview with Harry Summers years ago where he said basically that the city owned Lake Hodges Basin,
Right.
but it was paying the county because the county owned land around it. So one of the advantages of the city of San Diego to annex Rancho Bernardo was that it would have control of the Lake Hodges Basin. And that touches on the revenue you were talking about, and that getting
Yes.
from the...
And that's a really good point. Thank you, Vincent. The land that lies within the city of San Diego, they have the control over how it's developed and how it's used and what steps are taken to protect their water supply from it. You know, they bought all of San Pasqual Valley to protect the water quality at Lake Hodges. And that's a permanent agricultural preserve. That there'll be no subdivisions built in San Pasqual Valley. That was to protect Lake Hodges, and annexing Rancho Bernardo also protected Lake Hodges because only acceptable types of development then would be allowed to occur within the basin immediately to the south of the lake.
And there's another event you mentioned around 1940, it was 43 or 44. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I wondered if it might have had a bearing on the fact that the Daly family had been leasing Rancho San Bernardo from like the 1920s, and somewhere around 43 or 44 is when George Daly bought it outright. And I wondered if it had any connection to something that was going on in the county at that
I
time.
think it was only, from what I know, and I could be wrong, I think it was only coincidence that the dates correspond.
Thank you.
I've never heard anything connected with that, and I knew W.R. Hahn and Garry Summers because they had a big ranch in Ramona when I was up there, and that was the same time that Rancho Bernardo was being developed. I had a chance to talk with them about whether they were planning to do the same thing with their Monte Vista Ranch up in Ramona, and they weren't. So, any other questions or comments? Yes, sir. Yeah, Paul, Norm.
Desalination plants in Carlsbad, how do they affect us?
From our standpoint, it adds to our water supply. It makes our water supply a little more expensive than it would be without it. But the water industry took the position that we'd rather have water and pay a little more than have less water, and no matter how much money we paid, we couldn't change that. That plant was in the discussion stage and the planning stage when I was on the County Water Authority Board, and I was on the Water Authority Board in the 1970s. And it was completed and put in service in 2015. But they didn't take it lightly. They really, yeah, they really did. Norm?
Maybe go 3 different questions. Lake Hodges, if you drive down Del Dios, there's a flume going towards the ocean from there.
Yes.
Where'd that water go? Who's using that?
Nobody's using it at all anymore, but it's an old flume that was used to carry water from Wolford, I think, toward the coast for water agencies. There's pieces of the old San Diego flume in the Barren Long Indian Reservation and the Roman Indian Reservation. There are pieces of it out above the ground, short sections, maybe 70, 80 feet of flume that just nobody's done anything to remove it. But there's little pieces of it. I should have mentioned that I was thrilled in 1958. I had heard about the flume, I'd read about the flume because it was part of Helix Water District supply, and I was working for Helix then. And the bacteriologist for Helix invited me to go with him up to the diverting dam on Boulder Creek, which is where the old flume used to start. And that was where they diverted the water from the river and into this flume. And so the way we got there was we went across Lake Hodges, across Lake El Capitan in a motorboat, and to get up to the other end, and then we'd walk in. So we're going across the lake, and all of a sudden he slows down and he stops. And he said, "Look down." I looked down through the water. Below us, I could see the flume. Underneath us, it had crossed that gorge on stilts, and then the lake had flooded it all. But that piece was still there because nothing disturbed it. So you could actually see it. It was ethereal. It was really weird. You got 2 more?
What's the difference between an aqueduct and a flume?
Not really a whole lot. An aqueduct is normally a water conveyance. You don't do distribution off of it. It's to bring water from one place to another, usually from the source to the place of use. And most of them are open. We call them a pipeline if they're closed. And so there really isn't a big difference. Flume is a kind of an aqueduct, I guess, but because it's so temporary and flimsy, all the ones I've seen, you didn't want to give it a grandiose name.
Hey, Garry, we used to live here. If you want a cheap thrill, do this. I took my dog out on a walk on the street about 3 blocks from here. Underneath the aqueduct, it's a paved street. It's very quiet at about 11 o'clock. I put my ear down on the street, no car, and I could hear the water. Doing a fun.
Now, you're talking about a lot of flow underneath there.
Oh, yeah.
But normally you can't hear it. If you put your ear to the ground, yeah, you probably can.
I can hear it, yeah.
That's neat, Tom. Thanks for
I'll
sharing.
show you the spot.
Pat?
On Rancho Bernardo Road, north of Colorado, we live there with a slope down to the street, and water goes under that slope, and I wondered why and where it went. Because there's a huge pipeline under there. We moved in '69 and we heard about
Pat, give me again the
it.
location.
Yeah, go north from Colorado and RB Road on the north side of the street. There is a big pipeline that goes under that slope.
I would guess it's drainage, but the aqueduct is on the southeast side of the road at that point. So the aqueduct isn't in Pomerado Road.
No, it's an RV road. Rancho Bernardo Road, going
Yeah.
east.
You're talking about the one that goes by the swimming, that's what it
No, behind our former home. North.
is. On Rancho Bernardo Road, isn't that the one that connects right down and goes by the swimming, tennis club and keeps going to the golf course and finally ends up in Lake Hodges? There's a big drain.
Yeah, the drainage facility there, yeah. But it's not part of the freshwater system.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
Is there a treatment plant by the community park or some sort of a
Sewage treatment plant.
sewage treatment plant?
No,
Does Escondido have different water than we do?
Yes. Oh, thank you for reminding me. I should have mentioned that just about every community of the old communities in San Diego County had to develop their own water supply. Now, Ramona in the 1920s did theirs with a well field in the Santa Maria Creek bed. And Santa Maria Creek's a tributary of the San Diego River that ends up at Lake Hodges. But there they drilled wells down into the sand and good quality water, but not a lot of it. So in 1928, that was their water supply. It served them until about 1958. In 1958, they formed a second water district. A local community like Ramona had 2 water districts. One served just the downtown with well water, and the other one served 30-some thousand acres with imported water from the aqueduct system. And eventually, the 2 water agencies got together and dissolved the old one, and now there's just one there. But the history of most of these communities, they had a water system there initially before there was an imported water supply. And Escondido Mutual Water Company was the water supplier for Escondido for a very long time before the aqueduct, and even after the aqueduct system came in. And they developed their own water. They had Lake Wolford, and they built Dixon Dam and Dixon Water Treatment Plant, which is off of East Valley Parkway. But that was built after the aqueducts came and after imported water supply were built. And you could go to just about any of the older communities and find that that's true. One exception, Del Mar. Del Mar gets all of its water from the city of San Diego. They're not a part of the city of San Diego, and they pay the city of San Diego to deliver the water to Del Mar, and then they have their own water staff that delivers it to the meters to the customers, but they don't have their own water supply. They buy it from the city of San Diego. Coronado does the same thing. Imperial Beach does the same thing. They buy their water from the city of San Diego.
I never really go buying a refrigerator, freezer, and I said, it says something about filter. And he said, well, where do you live? And I said, in Rancho Bernardo. He said, well, you probably don't need to filter like people in the
You know, now that Escondido has a water treatment plant, they're doing better.
My kids all drink bottled water and I drink tap water all the time.
Most of us drink tap water. Other questions?
You know, this may be irrelevant to this discussion, but we're from Los Angeles. About 10, 15 years ago, they were talking about pure water, and they were going to install a system. Have they ever, and what do the people think?
Well, the only system I know of where this is being done is in Orange County. Orange County Water District does actually reclaim their sewage, put it underground, blend it with the water that's underground, bring it back up, treat it, and deliver it to their customers. And they've been doing it for a number of years. And they treat their sewage to a very high degree. You know, you could take sewage water and filter it through a filter, and that takes out the lumps. It doesn't take out all the things that are dissolved in the water. And so the only really way you can do this is to use reverse osmosis, or one of the procedures that actually removes even the things that are dissolved in the water. And that's what the Orange County Water District did, was use that kind of system. And that is why
Do people know it?
up in Orange County they do, because they publicize it pretty well. They just don't tell the rest of the world about it. Yes.
That's cheating.
Well, you weren't watching me.
Sorry.
I was just wondering, are the Santee Lakes strictly recreational?
Yes, the Santee County Water District built that lake system as a way that they could make their wastewater an asset to the community. So they treated their wastewater not to the degree where you could drink it, but treated it to a higher degree than sewage is normally treated. And then put it into those lakes for recreation, and the water's not used for anything else than recreation.
It's a lovely area to visit.
It is. They've made a wonderful park system out of it.
Mhm.
It was very controversial when they did it, and did it a long time ago. They did it like 50 years ago, when they first did that. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed talking to you.